Welcome, true believers. Welcome, Geekshow fans. It's time to talk about what is usually muttered as a curse word, but in this case is very good. Video game adaptations. We're going to talk about The Last of Us here.
The first episode.
First episode specifically, yes. So spoilers abound. If you haven't watched it yet or you haven't played the game.
Yeah. Press pause and go and do those things and come back.
That's right.
Yeah, you just go play the game really fast.
Yeah, just go do that. I'm joined here with Kerry Jackson.
Hi.
And Rebecca Frost.
Hey, what's up?
All right. I'm Tony, Quad T.
Yes. Now, you two have played the game.
Yes.
Up to a point. I am
All right.
playing the game concurrently with the show.
Oh, really?
I've got a whole video that I'm working on right now about that particular experience. So, but yeah, so everything that's in this first episode of The Last of Us, I have played in the game.
Okay.
Good.
So that was my first question, was this first episode. And again, this doesn't matter to me because I haven't played the game. This first episode follows the game pretty closely.
Astoundingly close.
Really close.
We were watching it, and I kept turning because my husband has no idea about the game or the TV show. Like
He hasn't played the game,
No,
really?
I know, it's crazy.
That surprises me.
But the whole time we're watching, and I'll admit I was on some edibles, but I was like, it is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
The level of detail and accuracy that has been lifted from the game and is in this show.
Really?
Like direct shots, specific lines and conversations.
Yep.
There's so much that is a direct lift from the game and just fits so naturally well in the show. It's amazing how they've done it. It's really cool.
Well, and The Last of Us is probably one of the absolute prime examples of something that would convert well to a movie or a television show, because the game itself is just so cinematic already. And that's kind of Naughty Dog's thing. You know, the Uncharted games, the Last of Us games, at least in the last, 10 years or so, that's their bread and butter. And the way they did this first episode, even though it's not a shot-for-shot remake, but it gets pretty close, like Rebecca was saying. But I feel like it's a perfect way to go for the first episode, because there's no better way to set up this universe than what they already did in the game.
Yeah, the way that they've adapted it adds a lot of richness and depth to the already existing story. I highly recommend listening to the official companion podcast, because in the first episode they have Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin on, and
I gotta listen.
They talk about not only why they made some of the choices that they made, but why those choices make the story so much better. And they're right. Like, it's incredible. The changes that they made really, like, while they are changes from the game, they actually enhance the existing story. And it's so cool.
Well, that's good.
For example, the very first scene in the show isn't actually in the game, if I remember correctly, but it's a shot from a TV show in the 1960s is what it's supposed to be.
This was my favorite part. I love the way they did this to help you understand this world.
Exactly.
Well, they introduce it not only to like give you an idea of what is coming, but also to instill the idea that this has been a thing that we have been aware of, and there's nothing to do about it.
This is real.
The zombie ants and everything.
Yeah, I took, me and Logan, we took a class in the extended education class, and it was a one-nighter, and it was surviving the zombie apocalypse was the topic. And these two, one was a survivalist and one was a scientist, and he talked about how we'll start before we tell you how to save yourselves. Here's how the zombies might happen, and they had 2 or 3 examples, and one of them was this fungus that they talked about, and it's a real thing. It's just fascinating. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and not only does it the timing of this is just terrifying, because they say in this shot in the 1960s, they're like, well, I mean, right now it's not a problem, but what happens if the earth starts to warm up and
Creates a perfect environment.
Fungus thrives better in that environment.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, well, And then in the news recently, I was reading that people that have had COVID, it is showing that they might be more susceptible to fungal infections. This is real life, by the way,
Yeah.
not the game
Guys,
Yeah.
or
I'm
the
telling
show.
you, I'm invincible. I haven't had COVID yet.
Me neither.
I ain't
Oh.
never gonna get that. I'm never gonna get that fungi thing. I'm not gonna turn into
Wait.
a clicker.
Way to just like tempt fate. Never had COVID. Boop-a-doop-a-doo.
Knocking on wood.
So, anyway, yeah, that was a fantastic intro to the universe.
I thought it was.
right there.
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It looked good. It was from that era. I could have swore you found a videotape. You know, it was that
exactly.
good.
And then they jumped to 20 years, or not 20, but like 50 years later. It's the early 2000s.
2003.
Okay, there you go.
Which
2003.
which was a cool choice.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause when I started playing the game, because this is how the game starts too. You're introduced to Joel's daughter Sarah,
Yep.
and then the game flashes forward 20 years. I didn't know that, so when I flashed forward, I was like, "What year is it? Like, how long have I been here?"
Mhm.
And I had to Google it and find out it was 20 years. And so, but changing it to 2003 and then making the 20-year flash forward to 2023 makes it more relevant. And
Yeah.
we're not trying to predict the future.
Yeah, exactly. And
Well, and it makes it so that in 2023, I would think maybe the internet doesn't exist. We didn't have cell phones, so.
Well, also starting it in 2003,
Yeah.
that stuff is so. You see Pedro Pascal, he's walking around with a Nokia brick phone.
Yep,
Yeah,
Nokia
exactly.
brick phones.
Avril Lavigne's playing on the radio.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
music choice, and there's a couple other things, and this was before
DVDs. They were like a big thing was DVDs.
Yeah, and this was when I was watching it with my wife. I turned to my wife, I was like, "Look at all these details." And they hadn't said what year it was. I said, "Look at all these details," and you can see that this is early 2000s, and they did just a great job of that. And
But
then,
also like details like proud soldier who served proudly served in Desert Storm.
yeah, Desert
bumper
Storm
sticker.
bumper sticker, and then the George W. Bush picture next to the clock.
Mhm. And then
in the classroom.
the Lieberman T-shirt later on in the in the episode.
Yep. Yeah, they did a great job with that setting. And so you get that gut punch right there as she basically events unfold, which the other difference between the game and the first episode, I don't remember the old lady from the game.
Cool, well, because she's not there. Because
Okay.
oh, baby, I'm going to talk to you about this because I'm so excited. Let me channel my excitable James really quick.
Grab the microphone. Pull
So,
it close.
so what they have done, so they've because in the game they introduce you to Sarah, like you're introduced to this world through Sarah, and
Yeah.
you only get to play as her for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it's not that long at all. Whereas in the show, they've given you so much more time to actually get to know her, and they establish that she has relationships outside of Joel.
Yep.
And she's an actual person.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do, they set up some really cool stuff. Thing number one, they show the old lady, they're trying to force feed her biscuits, and she is just like not interested in eating. And that can be a symptom of somebody who's infected, is they just have no interest in eating because the fungus has already taken over and the fungus is just thriving on your body.
Right.
The second thing, on the radio, they're talking about how there's been like something happening in Jakarta, right? And at the same time, Sarah is looking for stuff to make waffles or pancakes.
Pancakes, yep.
Pancakes. She's looking for stuff to make pancakes, but she can't find it. So a theory is that this fungus travels through like wheat products, and it's a good thing that she couldn't find the pancake mix, because as they were trying to force feed it to Grandma across the street or next door, she's eating the infected product.
The supposed infected product.
The supposed infected product. We don't know this for sure, but the showrunners have said there are a lot of little Easter eggs that you will be rewarded if you've been paying attention to the details. And theory is that's one of those like little details.
One of the way it spread so quickly was it got
But
into the food supply.
But that's just a
Yeah.
theory. We don't.
That's
know.
just a theory because
just a
they-
theory.
They also say that the infection in Texas in that area started in the city, and they specifically say that this old lady gets taken to the city frequently for doctor visits.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's where it's kind of assumed without
yeah.
without looking any deeper that that's where she got infected.
But also, like, makes sense that pandemics start in a city.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, close quarters,
Yeah.
things spread quickly.
I just don't want a future without bread. That's
I know, right?
that's a no-go
love
for me.
bread. I love bread.
Yeah.
I love bread.
My wife has an "I love bread" T-shirt.
Oh,
anyway,
that's awesome.
so
yep.
continue. Yes.
Everything goes down, and just amazing shooting, amazing storytelling through just showing and not telling about how everything goes down. They end up almost escaping, but in the my camera's going crazy.
Yeah, loves your shirt, Tony.
In the trying to escape as the world is falling apart near Austin, Texas, they almost make it, but they get caught up with a soldier who finds them, and the soldiers have basically been given the kill order on anyone that they might even suspect is infected.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to tell if someone's infected unless you can visually prove that they have no bite marks or anything on their body. And so he calls it in, and his captain basically says, take him out. But Tommy, his brother, saves the day, ends up, oh yeah, we haven't even mentioned Tommy. Tommy's there. Tommy's Pedro Pascal's brother. Joel's brother. Yeah. And he's kind of a screw up. They had to bail him out. That's why Joel had to leave the house and then come back late at night. And you end up with Tommy saves them because they got split up, but Tommy had the rifle. And then in the ensuing craziness, though, the soldier did discharge his firearm and ended up hitting Sarah. Mm-hmm. And in the game, all of this happens probably in the first 15 minutes.
It's literally 10 to 15 minutes. It's fast.
But it's a full, the first entire half of the show, of this episode, which is 90 minutes long, is all of this build and lead up, and it's just done fantastically. So then we jump ahead 20 years. You find out it's 2023, so you get your confirmation that first part was in 2003. Mm-hmm. And it does this awesome shot where it shows Boston, which has giant walls all around the downtown area, basically. And it's become kind of like a World War Z, if you saw that movie, that setup where they've just put walls around the big city. And the apocalypse is over. We are now in a post-apocalyptic setting where it's basically, everything's
trying
militarized.
To maintain.
Yeah, trying to just maintain a sense of normalcy and keep the human species afloat.
I couldn't quite tell if there was any sort of government.
Fedra
is basically in control, and
it's like a militarized government.
Yeah,
really.
That's what I was thinking. Is that it's not a democracy, certainly. But it's some sort of regime.
Yep.
Can we talk about, though, how they introduce the concept of how they treat the infected? Because when they first show Boston,
yes,
I'm gonna be annoying and do this a lot in the game.
No,
what happens is Joel's walking in the city and there's a guy in line and they're testing. They introduce that device.
Yep.
That tests you, and if it's positive or if you're positive or negative, and one of the guys in line tests negative. Whatever, he's infected.
Positive.
And
positive, yeah.
Positive. And he tries to run out of line, but they just shoot him in the street, and that just kind of shows you how they tackle that. But the greatest change ever, I think, is introducing this identifiable child, wheeling him in. He walks up.
He basically
mindlessly,
stumbles to the gate. From the Outlands,
Mm-hmm. And they take him in, strap him to a wheelchair because they don't want him falling out of the chair.
Yeah,
and,
that's what they say.
And one of the Fedra agents, a woman, is talking to him very calmly, casually. Mm-hmm. He gets tested. It shows a red screen, which shows that he is infected. And so she, without even blinking an eye, says, "Hey, how about this? After we give you some medicine, we're going to go give you a bath, give you some brand new clothes, all the toys you could ever want, and some of your favorite foods. How does that sound? And the kid's like, great. They give him a shot and essentially euthanize him.
Yeah.
And just such a great storytelling choice.
Yes.
Because it shows you they've been doing this for a long time and they have no feelings towards
Yeah,
being
they're kind of
infected.
numb to it. Yeah.
Yep.
But that also is a really great way to also show the progression of time for Joel, because later we cut to Joel, and as they're disposing infected bodies into a fire pit, one woman says, I can't do this. It's a literal kid. And Joel's like, I don't care. I've already lost everything. Like, he's a broken man and does not give any shits and just is like, okay, tiny child body, into the fire you go.
Yep.
He's broken. It's a really awesome choice to show that he is not the same man that we met 20 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, just phenomenal storytelling. You get to see some symbols strewn about the city as the story progresses at this point too. And if you've played the game, you know that that's the fireflies, right?
Yes.
And that basically the story at that point is you're going to they're going to start to tell us more about the fireflies and who they are and things like that. But they introduce this new character, this new little girl, and she's chained to a radiator. It's like, what's going on here? And apparently they come in and they give her some food, and they just check to see if she's turned a couple times a day, and then it cuts away and it goes back to Joel and his story, and you meet Tess, who's played by I can't remember her
Anna
name.
Torv.
Yeah, Anna Torv, who's from Fringe. If you ever watch Fringe, fantastic show, by the way. But she played Olivia in Fringe, the main character. And so she's Tess in the show. And what a weird way to introduce her character, because it shows her that she's been beat up and she's like tied to a chair. And then it shows another guy who looks fine, and he's like begging
Scared
her
of her.
forgiveness, basically. And you find out that she's been doing some shady backdoor deals as well, and they're trying to get a battery. And he sold their battery to her, but then before he could deliver it to her, he sold it to someone else and got paid twice and gave it to the person. So, but then they beat her up about it, and I don't know, it was confusing. But
Well, there was an explosion outside the building.
Yeah.
then there was an explosion after
Yeah.
they kind of finally came to terms with, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to get out of this situation between each other. There's an explosion.
Well, and it also establishes what a badass Pedro Pascal is, because they were begging her, don't
Yes.
tell him that we beat you up,
Yep.
please, because he's going to come down on us and it's going to be bad. And,
Yep.
you know, I thought, which was a very interesting choice. I thought it was pretty cool.
They really set up the dynamic that she is the brains and he is the muscle.
Yep, for sure. And basically, it's a shootout between the Fireflies and the Fedra agents, is what's going on. So
Now, I
go ahead.
didn't get, and maybe this is a spoiler, so maybe we don't address it. I don't know. I'm not quite sure who the Fireflies are or what they believe in.
it's
So-
going
Is
to
that
be
coming?
explained as you go. Yeah.
It's kind of, take the idea of a militaristic government. You're
Yeah.
going to have a rebellious.
Yeah, I figured it was certainly that, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering what their attitude about the infected is. So.
Well, it's pretty much just that. They're fed up with being told, what to do and not having any rights and things like that. But what makes them different is they're the ones that found this new girl character, Ellie. And interestingly, in this episode, and I believe that this took about half the game for you to learn what you learned in the first episode about Ellie, but she's immune. You
learn it really. You learn
Do
it
you
really
learn it
fast.
fast? Okay. I
No.
couldn't
Because
remember.
I learned it.
But see, there's the thing is that in the show, I didn't get that she was immune. I got that she has something special about her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't tell you right away.
They didn't tell us, and then, but it was, you got to get her to this place is the thing. And
Yeah, they don't.
I didn't get
in
that
the-
she was immune. So
Yeah, in the
thank
show
you
they
for
don't
that.
really tell you that until the end.
It's like it's like in the last 10 minutes, she admits that she's immune. Side note, another thing that you see in the show that's different from the game is in the game, the infection could spread aerosol through fungus spores in the air.
Ah.
And they removed that from the show, and probably
But
just because
it's hard to convey that.
Yeah,
in a
and
show.
they probably just didn't want to have the actors taking on gas masks and taking them off and everything.
How do you hide that face? How do you hide Pedro
It just-
Pascal's face?
So they took that out, and I don't think that's going to detract from it in any way. It's just a different choice on that. So anyway, so then we basically get into the whole aspect of the Fireflies have figured out that this girl is immune. They need to get her to their top science, rebels, and figure out if they the science rebels, figure out if they can find out why she's immune and how to replicate that and save the human race, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they had all these plans to basically have a convoy and take her out, but that's when everything started blowing up, and they realized, well, all we have is Joel and Tess now, and we have to pay them to take this girl across the country.
They're mercenaries, essentially.
They're basically mercenaries at this point, guns for hire. Mm-hmm. And so they make it out of Boston, another really cool just scene of everything going crazy and them making it out beyond the wall and everything like that. And that's kind of where the episode wraps up. Just setting it up for now that the journey begins. Now they start heading west because they're in Boston and they need to get to, I want to say, California.
Well, in the game, it's Salt Lake.
Yeah. Well, is it Salt Lake in the game? I thought it was past Salt Lake.
Well, they don't tell. Well, they don't. They haven't told me in the game yet, but I am aware. I think the final thing takes place in Salt Lake.
You get to Salt Lake in the end, but I'm pretty sure you go further than that. I could be wrong. It has been quite a while since I
so and
played
the whole reason they've also added a whole subtext reason of why Joel and Tess are trying to get out of Boston. Right. Because Joel has been communicating with Tommy. They have like a whole radio network set up.
Yep.
And Joel has been communicating with Tommy, but that communication has somehow stopped. And so he's like, I gotta go west and find my brother.
Gotta find
Tommy. So that's why they were trying to get the truck battery. And
yes,
that's an added thing in the show to actually give them something to need to do anyway.
And I loved their code that they used
with the music,
which is one decade means everything's fine. Was the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
No, 80s is
80s
trouble.
was bad.
80s is bad. That's right. I got it backwards. 90s is things are okay,
fine,
but a little messed up. And then current music, I guess, is everything's fine.
Yeah, and I love that Ellie cracks that code. I mean,
immediately.
That's easy. Okay.
Yeah. So they're heading out to find Tommy, and they basically agreed to take Ellie with them because they was going to provide them with resources to do this job for the Fireflies, that they could also use these resources to find Tommy. And so it's kind of a dual reason for that. So
also, we didn't mention Marlene, played by the same voice actress from the game.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
Merle Dandridge. Yeah.
Oh.
And apparently, at some point, other voice actors are going to show up in the show as well.
Yeah. Troy
and
Baker,
Ron Swanson.
Yeah, and
Ron
don't
Swanson.
forget about Ron Swanson.
I just got to the point in the game where Ron Swanson shows up, and so I'm very excited.
Whoa, you're already that far?
I'm in the high school right now.
Okay, yeah, you're moving.
I'm trucking along.
Yeah.
But Troy Baker hosts the podcast too.
He's the voice of Joel in the game.
He's the voice of Joel in the game.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend enough the podcast, you guys.
I'm gonna
it's
check
so
it out.
good.
Yep. So
because essentially they, just to give you like a little taste of it, they talk about getting the show made, and I think it was Neil Druckmann who had been like pitching the show for a while, and then he connected with Craig Mazin, who had just wrapped up Chernobyl, and because of the success of Chernobyl, the execs at HBO were essentially like, what do you want to do next? And Craig pitched The Last of Us, and they were like, okay, here you go.
Oh, after Chernobyl, he deserved that, because that miniseries was phenomenal.
Literally were like, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And they gave him the go ahead.
That's great.
Yep.
I love stories like that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a phenomenal start to the series. I hope it continues to be as good as this. And I never thought I'd see a video game adaptation that is as good as this. And I'm not even that harsh of a critic on video game adaptations. If they're decent, I'm on board. I thought the Halo video game adaptation to the TV show on Paramount Plus, I thought it was good. Like,
you and me are the only
enjoyed it.
ones. Yeah, you and me are the only ones who thought it was okay, and I think it's okay, probably because I didn't play the game.
Oh, see,
You know,
and
I'm just there for the show. Same with this one. I'm not going to play the game. If it's a good show, it's a good show. I don't care
Exactly.
about
That
its
Super
origins.
Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, I'm
Come
excited
on,
for
let's
that.
talk about
That
it.
looks I think that look. Oh, not the old one.
I meant the one from the 90s.
yeah, the John Leguizamo one and Bob
Yeah.
Hoskins.
Fantastic.
That's a gem.
Again, not familiar enough with the game to care. The movie sucked on its own. It didn't need any help.
Yep.
You know what's a good Xander, I swear to God. Do you know what is a good video game adaptation that isn't adapted from a video game? Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that definitely could have been a video game. That's an anime adaptation, actually. A manga,
Oh, is
I
it?
think.
It
Yeah,
was
it's a
an
manga.
anime. It was a manga.
Yes, thank you, Kerry.
And it was called All You Need Is Kill.
All You
and
Need Is Kill.
that is all. It is. The manga is superior. No, it was a fine movie, and I hadn't read the manga. I didn't care. I
I
Agreed.
just liked it.
I thought it was good.
was a great premise. I liked it. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the Sonic movies, those are pretty good too, actually.
If enough of
think
us
they're funny.
bully the creators, we can get the changes we want.
That's
So,
right. You know, give them some regular teeth, not the weirdo creepy teeth. I loved that that version of Sonic was in the Rescue Rangers.
Ugly
movie.
Sonic.
Listen. That Rescue Rangers movie
Really
is a
good.
gem,
It
and
is.
you should seek it out and watch it.
100%.
It's absolutely a gem.
Yep.
The Battleship movie, however,
Not accurate.
not accurate because there was not a red team or a blue team.
There were no monsters in the Battleship game. All right. Well, that's it for this one. I'd like to do these. We'll probably get these every episode because I just think this is a big deal. And
This is how many episodes for this first season? Is it 8 or 10?
I want to say 8.
I don't know.
Let me check real quick.
No one has a spreadsheet on this?
Shut up, Kerry.
Well, hey now, them's fighting words. The Last of Us is.
I want to say 10 episodes, but
I would love it if it's 10 because that means I get more. 9.
9 episodes. Okay, well, it's
Yep. So
works for me.
very excited to see where this goes.
Yes.
A solid. I would say this. I mean, I don't want to sound hyperbolic or whatever, but I think this first episode is a 10 out of 10. I think it is
Phenomenal stuff.
Just
No, I
great.
agree. And as the only person left watching the Walking Dead series, I have to say that this show makes me excited about zombie apocalypse again because the way that they're doing it is just it's so incredible. My favorite parts were, and I don't know if this is in the video game or not, my favorite parts were in the beginning when the shit's starting to go down. And they have the camera in the back seat and you're watching from the back seat as they're driving through the city and everyone's losing their minds and you're dodging people. And then I just thought that the choice of camera work in that sequence was just brilliant.
Well, Kerry, that is lifted directly from the game.
Yeah,
'cause in
shot
the
for
game,
shot, basically.
Like you're playing as Sarah in the back seat, and all you can do is look around. They drive past a house on fire, exactly like they do in the game. They drive by a family begging for help. They drive right past them, just like in the game.
Yep, someone will
the
come
level
by
of
for 'em.
detail is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
absolutely.
awesome.
All right.
All right. That's it for this one. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.